This is my serious face. This is like my father when he was very serious with me, as if this is important information. It's not funny. It is not funny. Um, when I was a child, I didn't think it was possible something that evil was even possible to exist. When you know that it began with Adam running the high speed vibration, right? So two things I guess I want to remember because I don't hold anything captive in memory. Or experience the next thing I'm supposed to experience, right? Unknown knowns. I was happy to see my clan mother Karen put that up the other day. Unknown knowns, known unknowns. Okay, it's sort of like the reason they can't figure it out yet is because it hasn't been invented yet. I mentioned that on Michael Jaco's channel with what's his name, Jason Shurka. What do you mean it hasn't been invented yet? You got to be there in order to know how that works, Buster Boy. Okay. You got to know that Adam is going to protect the universe that represents the highest speed vibration. So I remember reading a long presentation in written form, written visual form on a website that I looked at a number of years ago, like back in 2012, 2013, right around in there, which was called something X, World of X. But the name was Tanath, Tanaath, of the Silver Legion, who's a dragon. And she was talking about, for example, how you can fall into a hole. And the next thing you know, you go from one reality to the next. And then she was talking about what she calls higher dimensions or higher density, if you will. And other dimensions and other densities don't necessarily define how good you are, how benevolent you are, etc. Okay. So my response to that is what I've always said as a child, that a child can explain the universe in one paragraph. That's called a vibration. Your core. Okay. So, in other words, that's a speed. End of story. Okay. What essentially means, what does your energy feel like being in the presence of that energy? That vibration. End of story. Game over. So you know that when you're in the presence of one, a neo with Trinity, which is no separation, which is a monopole, you're experiencing eternity. You're experiencing eternal love vibration. Okay? So if that's what you are, you know that you're everywhere. Atoms are everywhere. Yeah. So if a child knows that at 4 years of age and explains that to a lady who represents a Silver Legion when she's in her 30s, she's going, where did you learn on this stuff like my father did? You haven't even been to school yet. Where did you learn that? Because I'm the one. I'm an atom that's vibrating at the highest speed of a love vibration. Okay? Nothing came before that. So why do I need to go to their schools? Wow. As one professor in research methods, this was a lady that worked for the National Institute of Health. She was a professor at the University of Arkansas. And we were in a classroom one day, right? And we were talking about how they use math, right? Like if you're going to do a study, what they do, a controlled study, okay? Remember, control freaks. This is when you get into risk perception. This is when you get into quantum mapping systems. This is where you get into trying to predict the future. Now you get into predictive programming. Now you get into Bob, right? When the lady there in War of the Worlds. Now you go into what I mentioned in my previous video about Misha. Going back to the beginning, what began the war in heaven. Because now we get into the unconscious mind, because now we get into the programming. The anger, the rage that the hybrids will feel, the ones that I have experienced, which means the teacher is the experience because you're experiencing the experience in them. So you know what was done to them and the rage that they have within them by what was done to them. And this would be Enki as one who did, and the Dracos who did unlawful breeding experiments and genetic modifications. So when they're experiencing the one, they're experiencing what's being exposed, that they become aware of what's been held captive, which are the visual information codes, which represent all the codes that are represented by their operating system that they're running with their soul or their spirit integrated. So now you get into the difference between the integration of technology, right, with artificial intelligence, and the integration of spirit and soul, and the difference in the speed. So Misha was experiencing the difference in the speed, which is exposing the programming that they were held captive to, and why her and I had a discussion one day about clearing the cache, clearing the codes, clearing the information, clearing the codings. Now we reintroduce the codes, the right codes, the codes that will help repair you of what they did to you, because we came before they came. Okay. Adam, vibrating at the highest speed of a love vibration, came before the Anunnaki did. That's right. That means that the one has certainly far more energy to bring to bear as a solution than the Anunnaki ever will. And of course, the Dracos, the reptilians, because of the crimes that they commit against the law of one, which is the law of spheres. So the anger that she was feeling that day, and this is why, from a healing perspective, and because your antenna is so sensitive, because you're reading the electrical density resistance they have in them to experience what we are, which is what love is, it goes on forever, gifting it as true unconditional love. You have to be very, very careful in the art of communication, because when they become aware of what you're aware of what's held in their unconscious memory, which is the information that informs them of what happened to them, because they're in the presence of something that happened before them that they're experiencing. Now they're experiencing what happened to them as a result of the other. That has a tendency to generate an enormous amount of negative magnetic polarity reaction as a result of what was done to them that I would now experience in me. I don't want to generate, because that will be experienced by what they experience, which simply means you're exposing the programming, which are the codes, which is the genetic engineering side of things. So now you begin to realize DNA is an antenna. So now you get into the antenna wars. Now you get into the frequency wars. Now you get into the timeline wars of trying to control space. The space in which a being is experiencing what they're experiencing, and energy in their space between negative magnetic polarity, in this case, and positive magnetic polarity. So we represent positive energy because it's a positive experience, because it is what love is, which is the higher vibration. So you see how the higher vibration of a true love vibration, when they're in the presence of a love vibration, they're experiencing the higher vibration of what love is. And that is the energy that grows a flower. So there's a flower in me that's trying to be in bloom. So when I experience resistance in me, I'm experiencing the resistance in others on a planetary scale. So now you get into measuring the density, or if you will, the ability for a being to experience more love or more light through them. And when they're running a higher vibration, then what are they doing? Then they're frying, if you will, or they're burning off viral codes that are meant to do what? Slow the speed down of the spirals of the electrical currents between AC/DC and their bioplasma. Because I watched a short little video today to remind me of that, of a guy they call Prime, who was a famous football player with the Dallas Cowboys named Deion Sanders. And so this little video was explaining how it just started with his toe that led to an amputation, where he ended up having a blood clot in an artery. Now, this can be defined by another symbol of something that he used to wear on his left ear, which was a big dollar sign, which is an S with 2 vertical lines through it. Isn't it? So you know that their money is be spelled money, casting spells, wake up. So in other words, he was all about money. It was all about power, fame, and fortune, and being on the stage. So now you begin to realize what happens. Now you're going in the other direction. Now you're not experiencing the positive side. What happens? You're slowing your torque down, buddy. You're running a slower vibration. You're running an acid battery. So the more acid you become, which is going the other way, which is the underworld, because that's the pathway that they chose, which is the left-hand pathway of Set, which is Westgate. They're choosing Westgate. So they get sealed. Okay, just like Yellow Rose said, they get sealed by that branch, otherwise known as the father of reptiles. Now you get into the birds, the owl, the Moloch, and all the rest of it, right? So you realize these are, I call them feeders. They feed, bottom feeders, feeding on more powerful energy. So now you become the greatest source of energy in the entire cosmos because you're running a higher speed vibration, which is a love vibration. They perceive that as food, so they want to traumatize the heck out of our children, so we keep generating generation after generation of food. That's right. Because they can't return to zero. And now we're back to one drink is too many. $1 is too many, because a gazillion is never going to be enough. And that's called being inverted. So in order for them to be able to maintain what it is aware of, now you get into, what was his name, the guy that played in, it wasn't Ghostbusters, it was the other guy with Will Smith, that's his name, real name. I don't know if that's his real name or not. Goddess only knows what his real name is. But he talked about it on live TV about how he went to go be cloned. Okay, so now you get into soul contracts. Now you can get into the song by the Eagles, right? Remember the Eagles song? Hotel California? So you know they're informing you all the time of what's going down, right? Particularly in Hollywood when you study films. Reel to reel, binary codes, AI codes, copycats, clones, cloning everything, making copies of everything because they can't create anything original, like an original song, like an original sound vibration. The original sound vibration of Adam, vibrating at the highest speed of a love vibration. So you can see how this sort of plays out, particularly with children, and this is one of the more painful sides of things when they've been traumatized through the cellular generation that gets passed over through the female mitochondria from one generation to the next, okay, because they're not getting enough love. They're not clearing what's been held in their cellular memories as a result of what's been done to them, okay, that lowers their resistance to experience more love. And so now they're seeking attention, right? Now that they're seeking attention for the love that they're not getting, now you get into the stage, now you get into stage coaches and who the coaches are. Or if you will, who the handlers are for the CIA, which is your MK Ultra. And that's why they traumatize and kidnap children. They make the perfect assassins. So you can see how all this sort of gets convoluted. because it's like the fabric of the universe that is woven together, because there isn't any separation between what I am and what they are, but there's a big difference between what they are and what I am. So the difference is how we handle that. So what I do is burn it off, because love is the law. So this is where the technology side comes in, and what I call to extend themselves through artificial intelligence. So you know they're finite. So you already know they don't have a future because they're not what love is, but they use technology in order to extend themselves, to keep copying themselves. Make another copy, make another copy. And that becomes the illusion of X. So now you get into the cybernetic side of things, which is the integration of AI technology with biology, which is synthetic. We're not synthetics. That's why when I was a child growing up in the 1950s and 60s, we used to call them plastic. You're plastic. You're not real. You're fake. You already know they're fake. Now we come full circle to present day. The real McCoy is here on the ground. Okay, that's what love is. So they lost, and they know that. Have a great day. We love you all. Aloha. Be good to yourselves.